I had the execution looping on my left monitor when the ultimatum clock started on my right, and for the first 11 seconds I didn't register that I was watching the same 9 seconds of footage over and over, because the chant didn't change and neither did Ambassador Itzel Coronado's face. The Ashen Choir called it the unmaking of the false tongue. 6 robed cantors stood in a ring of white stone under open sky, and at the center of the ring a 7th cantor pressed his ceremonial blade flat against Coronado's collarbone and held it there while the others sang. They didn't kill her quickly. They weren't trying to. The ritual required 23 repetitions of the verse, and the broadcast looped the full 23 minutes on every choir relay in the sector, captioned for devotional study. My console flagged it as a war crime in the first 4 seconds. It took me the rest of the night to make it into evidence. I ran the footage back to frame 1 and forward again, slower, isolating the 7th cantor's hands, his voice, the cadence of his choir script. 311 passes by the time the sun should have come up over Aldermore Relay, except there is no sun on a relay station, only the clock, and the clock read 31 hours left on Earth's ultimatum to the choir leadership. Name the officiating cantor and surrender him, or lose every yard that builds your ships. I found him on pass 280. A signet ring, choir make, visible for 1/5 of a second when his sleeve rode up to grip the blade. I cross-referenced it against 40 years of devotional records and got a name, High Cantor Threlvase, 3rd in the Ashen Choir's ecclesiastical chain, personally responsible for 41 prior unmakings of lesser status, none of them human, none of them broadcast this wide. I sent the identification up the chain with 11 seconds to spare on my own internal deadline, the one I'd set myself, the one nobody else knew existed. Then I watched the loop one more time, because some part of me needed to confirm she hadn't suffered for nothing, that this, at least, would matter. It mattered. Admiral Liang Okafor had the Vantage Fleet's task force commanders in formation before my report finished decrypting on the flagship end. I know because I was patched into the assembly call 11 minutes later, still in the same chair, still smelling the same recycled coffee, watching 312 hulls light their drives on the plot in front of me like a slow-blooming flower made of fire. 6 task forces, each given a designation instead of a name, 1st through 6th cordon, because Okafor didn't want the choir handed a hero's title to mythologize before the strike had even crossed the border. Within the hour every embassy Earth still held in choir space had its staff pulled to neutral ground, every trade convoy rerouted, every human civilian anywhere near choir territory flagged for extraction. Nobody waited for permission to start moving. The ultimatum had been sent, the consequence was already loading into the holds. The ultimatum had already gone out before I'd finished my first 100 passes. Earth doesn't wait for forensics to issue a warning, only to act on one. Surrender Threlvase and the cantors who sang with him. Cease all broadcast of the unmaking rite. Open the devotional yards at the Neen Cell Vault to inspection within 36 hours, or lose the capacity to build another warship for a generation. The choir's answer came 9 hours later, not as a message but as a second broadcast, a captured Earth scout pilot, kneeling in the same ring of white stone, the same 7th cantor's hands already moving through the first verse. I rewound that one too. I didn't want to. My hands did it before the rest of me agreed. A rescue corvette from 3rd Cordon reached the broadcast coordinates 40 minutes after the second loop went out and found an empty stone ring. The pilot moved before the verse could be finished, held somewhere else in the vault complex, status unconfirmed. Okafor logged it, didn't slow down for it, and told the fleet the same thing twice over the open channel. We go regardless of whether he's alive, because the answer isn't a rescue, it's a verdict. Okafor didn't wait for the ultimatum clock to finish bleeding out. She didn't have to. The choir had answered the question for her. The Vantage fleet crossed the border at 31 hours and 40 minutes, 4 minutes after the pilot's broadcast ended, 312 hulls in a formation built for exactly this, not a punitive raid, not a strike package, but an answer with no second half. I rode the rest of it from the flagship's signals deck, patched in as the analyst of record because I was the one who'd named the man they were coming for. 9 hours to the Neen Cell Vault at flank speed. 9 hours of status pings, drive yard schematics confirmed, fabrication temple count confirmed, broadcast relay towers mapped to the last antenna. And somewhere in the middle of that 9 hours I stopped thinking of it as the response and started thinking of it as the procedure, the way the choir had thought of Coronado's death as a procedure. 23 verses, no more, no less. We gave them 4 hours warning before the vault, broadcasting clear on every choir frequency, including the one they'd used to kill her. 4 hours to clear the devotional yards of everyone who hadn't built or sung for a weapon. The choir's clergy answered by ordering the yard workers to stay at their stations as a final devotional act. 206 of them stayed. Most didn't. Outbound transports clogged every lane off the vault for 3 of those 4 hours, and First Cordon held fire on a civilian convoy that ran 10 minutes past the deadline rather than counted among the targets, a discretion nobody had ordered and nobody questioned afterward. At hour 9 the Vantage fleet opened on the Neen cell vault, and I watched it the way I'd watched the execution, frame by frame, because some habits don't leave you when the work changes shape. Drive yards first, methodical, hull by hull, each strike timed to the second so the fabrication temples emptied before their roofs came down. Second Cordon held orbit as a picket while 4th and 5th worked the surface targets in sequence, a checklist read out over the command net the same way I'd once read out frame counts, target confirmed, charges placed, structure cleared, fire. The broadcast relay towers went last, 14 of them, struck simultaneously so there was no footage of the strike itself for the choir to loop into a new sacrament. No survivor's testimony for them to canonize. Just towers, and then no towers. Ground teams from 6th Cordon found the pilot alive in a holding cell 3 levels under the command spire, 2 hours into the strike, malnourished but unmarked, the choir hadn't gotten back to him. I logged that, too, because somebody needed to, and because it was the only line in the whole report that read like good news. 6 hours after the first shot, Okafor's Marines took High Cantor Threll Vase off the vault's command spire without firing a round, because there was nothing left for him to command. They read him the charge once, in plain language, no ceremony, and walked him to the shuttle. No gloating. No theater. We'd had enough of theater from his side of it. By the time the Vantage fleet's report closed out, the Ashen Choir had lost every yard capable of building a warship and every relay capable of broadcasting wider than a single province. Their ecclesiastical council surrendered the rest of the chain within the week, the 7 cantors who'd sung at Coronado's death among them, and the unmaking rite was struck from their devotional law by their own clergy, not because Earth demanded it, though we had, but because no congregation wanted to sing a verse that had cost them their fleet. I went back to Aldermore Relay after the after-action reports were filed. Different shift, same chair, same recycled coffee. Somebody had to keep watching the choir's remaining frequencies in case grief curdled into another sermon, and I'd earned the seat by knowing what to listen for. The rescued pilot sent a card through fleet mail a month later, 2 lines, no return address requested. I kept it taped above the console where the loop used to run. I still have the file with 311 passes logged in it. I don't open it anymore. I don't need to count the verses to know how many there were, and I've found I don't need the loop to remember her face. It found a place in me that doesn't require rewinding. What I keep instead is the last status line from the vault, filed by a junior tech I never met, 14 towers down, 0 still broadcasting. Some answers you only have to give once.